Benjamin's on the line in Northern California. You're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Mark. Hello there. Benjamin. Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to discuss something that I've been bouncing around in my head for a long time, and that is whether or not the Constitution of the United States does more harm than good or more good than harm. And I say that because, as I think you guys would agree, the government ignores the Constitution whenever it feels like it. But
that largely is the case. I mean, they seem to the Supreme Court, the only people that apparently their interpretation of the Constitution matters. When I read the Constitution, it says "shall not be infringed," or the rights. Let's see, rights shall not be infringed, or what's the Second Amendment say? Or the first one says, "The Congress shall make no law," or "shall not be infringed." I mean, those seem like obvious statements to me, but apparently the Congress can make all kinds of laws regarding the press and speech, and can infringe all kinds of laws regarding the Second Amendment.
Yeah, so I wonder, at least does the Constitution at least make it so the government has to pretend, right? So they don't just go out willy-nilly and flagrantly violate everyone's rights. So
it does seem to have some effect on how fast the tyranny can grow, but that seems to be about it. I mean, look at, as Lysander Spooner put it back in the late 1800s, either the Constitution has authorized the tyranny that we have, or it was powerless to prevent it.
Which I completely agree with. My thought, though, is, does the Constitution have value? Is it better that we have a Constitution than not have a
That's a good question. We can dig into that
like
here.
it because you can refer to it.
Does the Constitution have value? Stand by if you'd like to answer that or talk further about it. 855-450-FREE is the toll-free number. That number brought to you by SACL CAI. And if you would like to answer Benjamin's question, certainly welcome to do that. Does the Constitution have value? Or is it just a piece of paper with some words on it? 855-450-FREE. You take control. This is Free Talk Live. Let's go back to Benjamin. He's in Northern California. And your question was, is the Constitution of value? Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're getting at there?
Well, I mean, okay. So it forces the government to at least provide a semblance of you have rights. It doesn't. So the government has to maintain the lie, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Right? On the other side, I think it does damage because people get a false sense of security. They go, no, our rights are protected. See, look at this Constitution, protects our rights. We're totally okay. So I don't know
you're torn
on which side of the scales it ends up tipping, whether
I think you make a great point, and it's an excellent question.
This is just a variation of the we should vote for the most tyrannical candidate out there in order to show people what tyranny looks like.
Well, I don't think he's advocating to get rid of the Constitution.
Well,
he's asking. Seems confused.
No, I'm not saying he's asking. He's asking the question whether or not more or less tyranny will get us to human rights and.
I don't hear that question at all. That's not what you're asking, is it?
No, I'm just kind of, I don't know.
Okay, then the answer is, then my answer to the question is that the Constitution is good because it protects rights. Not all of them, not every time, not consistently by any stretch, but some people's rights are protected some of the time because of a document known as the United States Constitution. Therefore, it's a good thing.
But okay, and I tend to agree with that. But then on the other side, does it provide a false sense of security to where people aren't actively trying to achieve more human freedom because they're like, oh no, we're good.
Right, and this is the argument. This is the argument that I'm pointing out to Ian. This is why I'm kicking this through the field goal, and my partner just can't see one step ahead in a conversation. If you had no Constitution and therefore had more tyranny, like, say, Cuba, are the people of Cuba chafing under the yoke of tyranny, ready to rise up against Raul Castro and his minions? No.
Yeah, but New Zealand doesn't have a constitution.
The New Zealand Constitution is basically a democratic situation. You're right.
So, therefore, New Zealand is listed on the various different world freedom charts typically higher than the United States.
I don't know that you can draw one conclusion from another. Canada, which has the semblance of a constitution, is also higher than the United States. So there you go.
Right. So I don't know. Maybe it's really but the reason I bring that up, Mark, is because you're arguing that it's in a net benefit, and I'm pointing out that here you've got another country that is ranked higher than the U.S. and it doesn't even have a constitution.
New Zealand and Canada don't hold the position of world superpower that the United States does. The United States citizen,
and that's a good thing,
is tasked
that we are. That this is
they don't have the population. It has nothing to do with the Constitution, Ian. They don't. Canada is a tenth of the population of the United States, and New Zealand is smaller than that. So they just don't have the manpower or woman power or whatever, the tax base, in order to rule the world with aircraft carriers. You need to have a bunch of serfs in order to extract the money so that you can build aircraft carriers, which give you air dominance over a given battle space.
So just to be clear, it's your argument, Mark, that without the Constitution, things would be worse.
I think that's the case.
Benjamin, any other thoughts you want to share?
Just real quick on that story from ABC. I saw that story a little while ago, and what I thought was interesting and what I thought would be most shocking to the general public was the portion of the story where the gentleman was in court and the judge ordered him, as a sign of respect, to stand for him and take off his hat. And the reason I say that is I would hope that most people watching it would go, wait a second, if he's forced to stand and take off his hat, how is that a sign of respect? And,
indeed. Although I don't think most
Benjamin,
people would.
I don't think the average person sits around and thinks about human rights issues.
No, they don't.
I'm sorry to tell you.
And a lot of people are totally okay with the idea of forcing people to take off hats in courtrooms. I actually, I get the Google, what do they call them, the alerts. So you can type in a phrase into Google, and then you can subscribe to Google searches for that. And whenever something new pops up for that Google search within a certain number of results, it'll send it to you. So I get Google alerts for Derek J's victimless crime spree. And someone recently posted on, I think, like a mixed martial arts forum about Derek J's victimless crime spree. And some people got it. Some people really enjoyed the movie, and they, were totally on board with the ideas of freedom. And then other people piped up and talked about how they thought that Derek J was just a little bastard for keeping his hat on or whatever, and they were very upset that someone would dare have their hat on in court because there are rules in court. And darn it, those are rules, and they're there for a reason. There needs to be decorum in the courtroom, and we should put people in prison cells for having hats on in court or not standing for judges. And there are a lot of people out there who they believe that because that's the way it's always been.
Right, it's been done for 1,000 years, so why isn't it a good idea? In a time when human beings owned other human beings, it was fine to force a person to stand for the lord of the room. It was fine to have
some of them would get
doffed
upset.
Their hat or bow for people. And bowing is just baring your neck so that the Lord may chop your head off at his whim. This is a symbol of great debasement. The fact is that judge is no more a better person than you or I. And if you look at the news, they're less. And judges in this country, sorry to say, are really unsuccessful attorneys. Attorneys, a good attorney has a great law practice and would never bother going and taking a full-time job as a judge.